Hi friends, welcome back. So what I wanted to go through here is to look at counties in which have been designated with non-attainment standards. So we just talked about the Clean Air Act and we talked about the EPA and how they have certain standards that have been set. Well, they have lovely little interactive maps that show county by county how they're doing, essentially. And I got this graphic today on April 23rd, but you can see that it's updated for March 31st of this year. So you can look up a more updated one if you like, and I'll navigate through the EPA website to show you where exactly you can find it. But what you will notice here, unfortunately, is that much of California is not doing too hot, right? And even southern parts of Southern California are within the county design non-attainment for 6 of the pollutants. The Bay Area, not doing too hot either, with likely about 3. So where can you find this information? So if you go to the EPA website, which is not that website that's pulled up right there, epawebsite.gov, and then you go up to environmental topics, go to air, go to, of course now I can't find where it is, the criteria for air pollutants, the Green Book non-attainment areas, the national area and county level multi-pollutant information, and scroll down here to the maps. So you can click on the US map and voila, there you are. What I wanted to do also is focus more here on California, and this is looking at ozone in particular. This is the 2015 standard. So you can see that ozone is really our biggest boo-boo over here, right? Even down in LA and in the Central Valley area. Whereas the Bay Area is quite marginal, but ozone is really, really prominent in the Central Valley and the LA area. Again, as I said before, if you've ever been to LA, driven over the Grapevine and just see the nasty bleh over LA, or even flown into LA, if you look down, you're like, oh, it looks kind of cloudy, or looks kind of hazy or muggy. That's ozone, unfortunately. And you can find this map on that same website as well. But there was legislation that was brought into law back in 1970, and that is the Clean Air Act. It's not surprising that it happened in 1970, right? That's the year of environmental law. And it was amended later in 1977 and 1990. This authorizes the EPA to set limits of, aka our NACs, on amount of specific air pollutants. And these limits can change as science gives us a better understanding of the effects and risks. So we have primary standards and we also have secondary standards. Of course, the initial focus is on those 6 criteria pollutants, but it has now been expanded into other air toxics, mercury, CO2, things like that. And states are responsible for meeting these federal deadlines and developing state implementation plans. So that's a really nice, it's a nice representation of, we have kind of federal stuff going on, and then it can be really zoomed more down into stateside legislation rather than have it be like big government or whatever. And it's working. Yay! That's a good thing, right? The Clean Air Act programs have lowered levels of the 6 criteria pollutants as well as other numerous toxic pollutants. From 1970 to 2012, aggregate national emissions of the 6 common pollutants alone have dropped on average of 72%, while GDP grew by 219%. It's often this misconception that going green is going to tank the economy. That's definitely a major talking point right now. And I encourage you to look up some of the things that are happening in legislation currently, and maybe form your own opinions on what could happen here. And it's crazy. So the emission reductions have led to dramatic improvements in the quality of air that we breathe. And between 1980 and 2012, national concentrations of air pollutants had improved a lot, most notably by lead, but also by carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, fine particle concentration, and coarse particle concentration. So notice all of those decreases, right? And again, even though we've been improving our GDP. But how do we know that? Well, the EPA, as another little part of their website, has a lovely little graph here that shows the growth areas and declining emissions. So our GDP has increased quite a bit, right? And what's nice about this is it goes all the way up to 2019, where the stats before were up to 2020. So 2012. So we've increased a bit with that as well, which is great. So all of this has occurred even as our aggregate emissions of our 6 common pollutants has decreased. It is kind of interesting looking at the other values that are shown here. The vehicle miles traveled. I'd be really curious to add 2020 into this, right? And probably like, whoop, nice little decrease there. Population is steadying out, which is good. We've covered overpopulation before. Energy consumption has stayed relatively steady, and CO2 emissions in the US have dipped, which is good. We've been able to create more efficient vehicles. We're going more electric, especially here in California. Car companies are certainly jumping on the wagon of making more hybrid vehicles, which is great. All about it. And as I said before, I highly, highly encourage you to look into the news now and see what cuts are being made to the EPA, because unfortunately the Clean Air Act is under attack and is very much underfunded. And I know that this quote is a bit old, almost 20 years old at this point, but a 2002 report concluded that simply by enforcing existing clean air legislation, the U.S. could save at least another 6,000 lives per year and prevent 140,000 asthma attacks. I don't go over the graphic in these videos, but you'll see it's the very first infographic of your book that shows the deaths from air pollution. The US is doing pretty well, actually, in comparison to the rest of the world. We have decent healthcare and such like that. But you can see that there's most certainly hotspots in India and in China. And there's reasoning behind that that's not just car emissions and air pollutants along those lines. That's actually generally, especially in India, more so due to burning of organic material. So a lot of India doesn't have electricity, thus they don't have electric stoves, they don't have gas stoves, things like that. So what they do is they flatten out cow poo-poo and dry it out and use that as their fuel to burn, to use heat and to cook over. So those are in enclosed homes. So with that, there's a lot of air pollution that is generated that way. And a lot of lung disease and deaths occur because of that. Again, not information that's generally shown on these slides, but your book does go into it a little bit. And it is a really important thing to think of when it's not just us, you know what I mean? We're not the only people here. Your book goes into it in section 6. So, something to keep in mind. But in terms of what we can do in the United States, what can we do, right? What are some of your ideas in order to improve air pollution? You can consume less. That's really the biggest one, frankly. Drive your car less. Turn off your electronics, things like that when you're not using them. But have more ideas. You're very, very bright students, and your ideas so far this semester have been wonderful. So keep on fostering those ideas. So the next topic I want to touch in on is that of acid deposition. So this is from a graphic from your book, and acid deposition maybe you've heard of before as the term acid rain. But we don't really like to use the term acid rain that much right now because it doesn't just come in forms of rain. It can be other acidic moisture such as fog or snow, but it can also be a dry process. And air pollution does not just stay in one area. It can be emitted from one space, and as I said before, can be transported elsewhere thanks to winds. And again, we're very familiar with this here in California with wildfire smoke. But what can happen in terms of emissions from vehicles, or more importantly, coal-burning power plants, they release these gases, and those gases combine with water, and you can have dry deposition into foresty areas, or it can turn into precipitation, which what we call wet deposition in forms of acid rain and acid snow. Even though here in California, we don't have close neighbors to our west, right? We just have the ocean. Thanks, ocean. But we can actually get measurable pollution from China. So it doesn't just stay within political boundaries. Canada was actually quite mad at us for some time because of our emissions ruining their forests. Because again, we have these coal-burning power plants, transportation of air, which can deposit these acidic conditions into forests, which can get into soil. It can get into lakes, and if it gets into lakes, then it changes the pH of the lake water, which makes it uninhabitable for the creatures that are living there. And there's also billions of dollars worth of damages per year to things that are human created, like buildings, statues, paint, cars. I don't know about y'all, but in the forest, when we had our wildfires and then we finally got some rain, the rain actually ruined the paint on my car because I had little dents everywhere, for like little rock dents, as if I had been driving behind like a truck that was transporting rocks or something. So all these little dents, and the hood of my car, the whole finish on the top of it is now gone. So it can do damage to other things, not just natural processes. And let's just remind ourselves really quick what it means to be more acidic. So here's our lovely little pH graph here. So a good like halfway in between is a pH of 7. And a healthy lake is that of 6.5. And what we've observed in the Northeast United States is more of this pH of 4.2 to 4.4. And that's not good, right? We don't want water to be that acidic. It's not that great. It's close to that of orange juice or lemon juice. And I don't know if anyone's eaten a lemon recently, but whew, they are acidic. So, and this is also a problem in the oceans as well. And if you've heard of the term ocean acidification, it's a similar idea, but in the ocean, and because the ocean's a carbon sink. But we'll probably talk about that when we get to climate change. But in terms of all of this, in terms of the United States, where is this deposition an issue? Unfortunately, it's a massive issue in the Northeast United States. It's improved quite a bit, which is great. But because we have these coal-burning power plants and such in the Central Plains area, and then the transportation of those pollutants then gets deposited onto the Appalachian Mountains. It can be deposited into the forests and into the lakes in this area, making them completely devoid of life. Things have improved, but again, what more can we do? A lot of the things that you consume are likely made or have been transported from the central US. So the biggest thing I think that you can do is just to lower your consumption. And that is all that we have in terms of video-wise. So have a great rest of your time and make sure you read the rest of your book.